Why are some guys doing better on sub-Q TRT injections than on intramuscular?
Okay, so as we know that hormones are very individual and different people are going to do differently on different aspects. You have to understand that your total testosterone is one metric of so many that we measure. And a big factor that a lot of people keep overlooking is the rate of metabolism and excretion, or essentially the pharmacokinetics of the medication. If your SHBG levels are low, you're going to likely excrete your medication quicker than someone who has higher or normalized SHBG. SHBG acts as a buffer. It's kind of like a savings account, and it kind of trickles out as you need it. So you have your checking and your savings. Think of your checking account as your free T. SHBG bound testosterone is your savings account. Your checking goes down, you move money over from your savings to bring it back up. If your savings account doesn't have the binding capacity or the availability to hold on to that hormone or money per se in this analogy, then you're essentially going to be using more of it in the free testosterone department. It's going to run out quicker and you may need more frequent injections. So someone who finds that their sub-Q total T level is better than it is on IM likely suffers from low SHBG, and therefore they're probably going to do fine on IM if they went with more frequent injections. You have to remember that the time from your previous injection to your blood draw is actually going to be on a downward slope, and you may be measuring at a trough, and therefore the sub-Q may be slower to excrete and come back with a, I guess, falsely higher T level because it's just a snapshot in time. People put way too much emphasis in the numbers. At the end of the day, it's how do you feel overall? What is more adherable to you and your lifestyle? What do you feel less anxious about? Some people just don't like the IM route for whatever reason. They're afraid of needles, whatever. Do what works for you, experiment with it, and find a sweet spot. It's not a one-size-fits-all. Just because we make a video saying this injection route, in theory or in a lab or scientifically is better than this one, doesn't mean that it's a blanket policy for everybody or across the board. And the same thing goes for nutrition. I'm sure Ali will tell you later when those questions come up. There's no one diet fits all. Otherwise, you write a book and retire and call it a day, right? Individual approach is essential when you have to fine-tune and pinpoint individual results. And no different from TRT and pretty much almost everything in life when it comes to human beings.
Why do you guys think that, like, so many guys put so much into their number total, like their bench press number? Like my testosterone's 900. It doesn't, like, no one really understands that it's really about how you feel. Because there are guys that are at like 500 that feel amazing.
Until you tell them they're at 500.
Yeah.
Until you tell them, hey, you're low. Oh, really? I didn't know that. I felt fine up until now. Thanks. You know, that's one of the reasons we'll never reveal labs before we get subjective data from a patient. We'll call a patient, we'll get all the information from them first before we even go over numbers. Because you'll tell someone who feels great that, well, you only came back at 550, and they'll say, oh, wow, and I thought I felt well. Well, you did, and that shouldn't change based on a number. But look, people like to put a finger on tangible assets, and a number is a tangible asset. Describing how you feel is subjective. Looking at a number is objective, and people like objective data. And it's also what they're taught. They look at reference ranges. Just yesterday in the group, we had somebody ask me, why would you say this guy needs TRT if he's at the top end of the reference range? What is a reference range derived of? We've done a dozen videos on this. Okay, so people have this thing in their head where it's like, well, my doctor said I'm normal, therefore I don't need anything. It all comes down to numbers for people. And again, numbers don't define how you walk around and feel every single day.
Some men try to get their free T level as high as well as possible. Is there any point in trying to lower the SHBG to do that?
Absolutely not. We've done a whole 40-minute video on SHBG and why you, I think the title of the video, and you're the one that put it up there, is don't lower SHBG, or why you shouldn't lower SHBG. More free T does not mean better. It can actually have adverse effects. Things need to be balanced. Hormones, and I say this over and over again, hormones are like a symphony or an orchestra, okay? You need the drummer, the guitarist, the vocalist, the bassist. You need them all in sync. You can have all of the best musicians in the world. You throw me on the piano in the back corner and I just ruined the entire orchestra, okay? And again, this comes down to the same thing. It's like everything has to be in harmony. That harmony is going to be slightly different for everyone. So I like to look at hormone balancing sort of like an equalizer. It's not a one-size-fits-all. It's not a master volume control. It's an equalizer. Once you fine-tune everything to that individual's preference, Now you run with it until things begin to change and it's time to fine tune again. So it's not like, well, let's crank up the bass all the way and it's good for everybody. Not the way it works. I wish it was that simple, but it isn't.